And after the Demon King was killed, the humans attacked the Demon Castle, seized control of it, and threw a big party to celebrate. But after 3 months, the demons needed a new Demon King, so they held a competition to choose who it would be. Although Helk is a human, he participated in the competition to become the new Demon King. He won easily against the first round of opponents and delivered a terrifying performance. Vermilio, one of the 4 Lords of the Empire, was watching Helk's match and sensed that he had tremendous power that no one knew the magnitude of. But at first, she didn't care much. She was managing the competition, and Han, who was her assistant, was helping her. Vermilio wanted to check on the previous participants, so Han used a magical ball and showed her the images. She was happy when she saw that the participants' levels were around 45, meaning they might find a Demon King stronger than the previous one. But when Helk appeared on the screen, Vermilio noticed something strange. Han explained to her that Helk was beloved by the masses, even though he was a human from the human world. Vermilio was very shocked and said that this human shouldn't have been allowed to enter. The idea of a human becoming a Demon King was a nightmare for her. She feared that humans might use this as a pretext for an attack. Han tried to reassure her and showed her a scene of Helk smiling and talking normally, and told her that he was calm and wouldn't cause a problem. But Vermilio didn't believe it and called him an idiot. Han reminded her that Helk signed a deep green contract, meaning he couldn't attack anyone outside the ring. Vermilio said that Helk found a loophole and was exploiting it to his advantage. Also, Helk appeared in the video hitting his opponent, and it seemed he would finish him off. Vermilio's anger increased because she thought Helk intended to eliminate all potential participants to become the Demon King. But her theory was shattered when she saw Helk helping the opponent and offering his hands to stop him. This increased Vermilio's anger because she didn't understand his intentions. She became so suffocated that she blew up the whole building with her magic while she sat amidst the rubble. She warned Han that he would be transferred if he couldn't find a solution. Finally, Han used his brain and said they must stop the fighting completely and make the participants build a house of cards. Whoever finishes first advances, and if Helk tried to win, they would give him special slippery cards. Vermilio said the idea wasn't bad and agreed to think about it. Also, she wanted to know more about Helk, so she sent their best spy, Asta, to the human world. When she arrived, she noticed something strange. There was no one there. They returned to the competition. The new round started, and Vermilio chose the house of cards idea. All the people started building. Vermilio found the subject a bit boring, but she was happy when she saw Helk suffering like the others. But then Helk decided to leave everything and created a wave of air that wiped out the others' card houses. Then he assembled his card house at record speed. The audience went crazy over this. Vermilio got very angry and accused him of cheating and tried to change the rules. Suddenly, a guy named Kenros appeared and started hyping up the participants and making them fight each other, telling them words about card houses and how these were like their bases and they must protect them at any cost. The participants believed the words and started fighting. Vermilio collapsed, but Han told her to calm down. At this time, Asta was still in the empty human world, sitting and drinking coffee. She has a rare ability to communicate with her twin sister through actions, so drinking coffee allowed her to talk to her. She told her sister about the situation and that she didn't find any humans. We returned to the competition, and Helk won all the strange competitions that Vermilio invented, and this angered her every time. In the cooking competition, Vermilio disguised herself as a judge to give him a 0 no matter what he did. But as soon as she tasted his food, she was forced to give him a 10 because it was so delicious. After that, she returned to her palace to think of a way to defeat Helk. She came to give her a report and said that Helk had a huge bounty on him in the human world and was classified as the most dangerous criminal in human history and known for killing his brother. And the funny thing is that his brother was the one who defeated the Demon King, not Helk. She also said that Asta didn't find any humans in the village, as if they had disappeared suddenly. Vermilio was shocked. After a while, Han entered. He was terrified and said that Urim Castle had fallen. Vermilio said that was impossible. The place was well protected, and no hero could do that. But the problem was that the one who did it wasn't a hero. It was a fleet of white-winged knights, and they were so strong that the Demon King in Urim Castle was forced to sacrifice himself to stop them. Vermilio understood that their castle might be next and ordered him to strengthen the barrier and prepare the army. At this time, Helk was playing with his new friend Kenros, and there was no problem. Vermilio was thinking about the information Asta told her and decided that getting rid of Helk was the only solution. After that, Han came smiling in an evil way and told her he prepared a horse race for the next competition and was confident that this would finish Helk. The race day came, and everyone entered on magnificent war horses except Helk, who entered on a very small pony. Vermilio expected the audience to mock him, but instead, people started praising Helk more and said he was so big and strong that he made the horse look very small. The race started, and all knights rushed forward except Helk's horse, which was shy and didn't want to move at all. Vermilio was very happy and certain that Helk was finally finished. But Hura, one of the participants, saw Vermilio's plan and knew they rigged the race on purpose against Helk. Vermilio was sure that Helk could never catch up, so she started going to the end of the track to watch the others. But the other competitors weren't happy either. Vermilio had equipped the whole track with traps in case Helk reached any place. Kenros and Hura were dealing with the traps well and stayed in the lead. Hura was running in second place and was satisfied because second was enough to qualify. But suddenly Helk appeared behind them with insane speed. Han trembled with fear because no small pony could move like that. And he was right, because Helk wasn't riding the pony at all. He was running beside it with his feet on the ground, and the pony was just a decoration. Vermilio thought about stopping him for cheating, but Han told her that would upset the audience if she did that, and reassured her, saying that there was still the trap-filled track ahead of him. But Helk destroyed every trap before him without slowing down. In the end, he wasn't pretending to ride at all. He was running full speed while carrying the pony in his arms. He arrived, but Kenros and Hura, when Helk ran past them, Kenros decided to copy him because he didn't want to let Helk take his win. Kenros got off his horse and started running too. Hura stayed on her horse because she was satisfied with third place. Kenros was close to reaching Helk, but Helk crossed the finish line first. Kenros wasn't upset. The two showed sportsmanship and gave each other a side hug. Vermilio was ready to explode with anger, but Asta entered to bring a report from the reconnaissance team. She said there was no sign of an attack on the castle right now, but they confirmed the presence of the winged knights and managed to identify their leader. Vermilio said that didn't mean they should relax. She wanted to go herself and destroy the winged knights, but couldn't leave now because Helk was still a threat. At that moment, Azudora appeared behind her and told her important words about the winged knights. Vermilio thought he must have improved because he was speaking calmly, but when she turned behind, she saw that he was still in bad shape and fell from pain. He proposed that the final competition be a mission to retake Urim Castle from the winged knights, and whoever defeats the enemy and returns the castle will be the new Demon King. Azudora explained that this solves two problems at once. They can retake Urim Castle and test if Helk intends to fight for the demons or against them. Azudora knew that the demon forces wouldn't be able to handle it if Helk turned against them, so they needed to confirm now whether they had to eliminate him or not. Vermilio thought and agreed that the idea wasn't bad, but asked Azudora what they would do if Helk turned out to be their enemy. Azudora was ready. He took out a deep green ring and said that all participants who wear it won't be able to harm each other. Vermilio said the idea was genius, but promised that she would risk her life if Helk became their enemy. After 5 days, the final test began. All the people wore the green ring as they were told. The announcer explained the mission details. Vermilio wanted to monitor everything carefully, so she disguised herself as a normal human and took the alias Anne. She told the participants that the forces they would face were strong enough to destroy Urim Castle, but she believed they could succeed. Before they left, Helk looked at Anne and recognized her as the judge from the cooking competition, and Anne didn't deny it. Hura also felt she saw Anne before, but didn't know where. They put this disagreement aside. Anne and Helk shook hands in sportsmanship, and the mission began. Not far away, Hura eliminated a group of jungle spiders alone, and the others remained. Shocked, everyone was affected by her power, but Anne was afraid she would exert herself too much, so she advised her not to tire herself out. Suddenly, a new swarm of jungle spiders appeared around them, and Anne got nervous. Helk noticed this and asked her why she was nervous seeing insects. Kenros explained that these weren't normal insects. These were savage monsters formed from the toxins spread in the land. Hura started killing them again, but Dorshi, the huge man behind them, told her that using a sword was a waste of time because he could wipe them all out at once. After eating a magic bean, he created a strong barrier, charged his energy, and then created a massive explosion that wiped out the entire swarm, as he said. After that, the team continued, making their way until they reached a rest area. Kenros assumed they would be safe because the barrier blocks the toxins and they went in to rest. But Anne kept watching Helk closely. She noticed that he still hadn't shown any fatigue, even though they walked for hours. She guessed that he might have infinite stamina and complete resistance to toxins. A little while later, Kenros asked why she was talking to Anne in a formal way, and Hura, considering she was the only one with a functioning brain, admitted she suspected that Anne might be Vermilio in disguise. Kenros almost believed her, but Anne heard her and interrupted Hura's words and said she was just Anne from management and there was no need for formal speech. Hura agreed, but she was still not convinced. At this time in the castle, Han was defeating Azudora in another chess game, and Azudora got so annoyed that he started bleeding. Suddenly, the announcer, Rocco, and Asta entered with an update. Rocco said that Vermilio and her team left the second rest area and were heading to Urim Castle, but they had to take an alternative route because of an incoming storm. The bad news was that the route now passed through an underground tunnel full of toxins and dangerous monsters. Asta suggested changing the plan and said defending a protection unit, but Azudora said that was dangerous. Reducing forces would weaken the castle defenses, and escort units would be a hindrance. He believed that Vermilio was capable of handling the situation. Vermilio and the others walked in a cave and faced many monsters, but none of them caused big problems. The situation changed when they met a huge new creature. This being rarely attacks anything it sees and grows with every battle. Before Vermilio could move, Helk jumped forward and kicked the monster in the chest and killed it with one blow. Anne and the others stood amazed and couldn't believe what happened. After seeing this, Hura started to doubt that she had any chance to win the whole competition and told the group to continue on the path while she burned the monster's body. When they got out of the cave, they met a spy named Koshiki who revealed to them a back passage that leads directly to Urim Castle. This path took them straight to the battlefield. He gave an important speech saying that whoever defeats the enemy leader first will be the winner of the competition. Everyone responded normally, but Hura was deep in thought. She knew that Helk was the biggest threat, so she decided her best chance was to defeat the enemy leader before Helk moved. Seeing the others preparing themselves mentally made Anne remember a conversation that happened between her and Azudora after he got injured. Azudora told her that after he made the Deep Green contract, he went to Thor Castle, and there he met Thor and expected trouble, so he set several traps beforehand. Vermilio thought Helk was the one who injured him, but Azudora explained that he got injured because he fell into his own traps. He was relieved because he survived, knowing that if Helk had used even a fraction of his power on him, he would have died instantly. After remembering this, Anne became sure that Azudora really trusted Helk, but she still felt something was wrong, feeling he might be hiding something. The group arrived at Urim Castle and saw the winged knights guarding their leader. Since they were only 7, they assumed this was their chance and jumped into the battle. Anne was watching carefully and with curiosity to know what Helk would do. Kenros started fighting the winged knights, and Hura wanted to finish the matter quickly. She attacked the enemy leader directly, but before she realized, the leader rushed and cut off her arm. The leader was about to strike the final blow when Helk suddenly appeared in front of him and told him to stop. It was clear the two knew each other because the leader turned and took off his helmet, revealing his face. His name was Edil, and he said he never expected to meet Helk in a situation like this. Seeing Edil's human face confirmed to Anne that the winged knights were all humans using some kind of magic to transform their bodies. Edil explained that he underwent a process called awakening, which unlocked for him a terrible power he could use to fight demons. Before anyone could act, a whole group of Edil's knights appeared in the air behind him. One of them tried to attack Anne, but she burned him immediately before he reached her without even looking behind her. Just like that, Anne noticed something terrifying. The heroes had become much stronger than she had previously expected. One hero was a big threat, but now every single one of these awakened humans posed the same level of danger. This meant that the fate of Thor Castle now rested entirely on Helk's shoulders. Anything he decides to do next will determine everything. Edil continued speaking and said humans were tired of running away and finally ready to face the demons face to face and take the victory. Their goal was to eliminate the demons completely and create a perfect world for humans. He added that this would be easy for them now because they were exactly like Helk and awakened as heroes. Everyone trembled with shock because the existence of more than one hero at the same time was a very rare thing. That Helk and his brother Kless were born in the same era was a rare thing, so the idea of a whole squad of awakened heroes was almost impossible to believe. Anne understood that if this talk was true, their empire was truly on the brink of collapse. They must move quickly before everything falls apart. Edil continued in his villain monologue, but suddenly Hura flew without anyone noticing and cut off one of his wings. The strange thing was that her arm, which she had lost, before regenerated completely as if it wasn't cut off at all. Hura was from the Ahal tribe, and members of this tribe were known for their ability to regenerate all body parts. Anne quickly thought that Hura had let Edil injure her before to deceive him and lower his guard so she could strike him a fatal blow now. After Edil lost his wing, Hura became clearly in the lead. She immediately cut off his second wing and approached to finish him off, but at the last moment, Helk stood between them and stopped her sword with his arm alone. Anne saw this, and it increased her conviction that Helk might really be their enemy. Before Helk could try to explain his actions, Edil suddenly got stabbed in his back by one of the winged knights. Helk stood for a moment, trying to understand what was happening, then noticed something wrong beneath them. Helk screamed for everyone to run, but it was too late. The ground cracked and collapsed, and they all fell into the darkness below. They fell into an underground place and saw a luminous stone floating in the air. Anne looked at it and knew immediately it was a gate made with spatial teleportation magic. Akira was confused and wondered how humans could develop such advanced magic on their own. Suddenly, the gate started, moving violently and pulling everything around it. No one knew what would happen if they were pulled inside, but their gut feeling told them this was dangerous. They all tried to escape, but the suction was very strong. Fortunately, Dorshi quickly made a barrier around them and protected them temporarily, but the suction was so strong that the barrier started to crack. There wasn't much time. Anne heard this and knew she had to act immediately. She ran towards the gate and fired a huge fireball at the floating stone. The stone cracked a little and gave her hope, and she prepared to strike the final blow. But at that moment, a piece of debris hit her head from behind, knocked her, and pushed her towards the gate. Hura and the others got nervous, but no one wanted to risk being pulled inside. Before she disappeared inside the gate, Helk jumped suddenly and grabbed her hand, but he didn't think it through, and they were both pulled together inside the gate. At the same time, Dorshi's barrier finally broke, and the others remained standing helpless, watching the place where Helk and Anne disappeared from. After a while, Anne woke up confused, and her head was still affected by the blow, but she discovered she was on a surprisingly calm and beautiful beach. Anne looked at the flowing water and understood it was the ocean, so she assumed they were transported to the edge of the continent. She sat by a stream, wondering how long it would take to return to the Empire. Suddenly, she realized she woke up on Helk's cape folded under her head like a pillow, meaning that he must be close. She heard a light knocking sound, so she followed the sound and found Helk standing in front of a small house he managed to build in the short time she was unconscious. Anne didn't know Helk was this skilled, so honestly, she was a bit amazed. She turned around and noticed a strange green bird greeting her over and over. Before she could react, Helk appeared behind her suddenly and startled her. Anne asked why he built the house. Helk explained that they needed a temporary base of operations because neither he nor she could return alone. He ran around the whole island a while ago and checked and confirmed they weren't close to any of the castles. It started to rain, so Helk and the green bird went towards the house. Anne was stubborn and refused to enter, but Helk ran quickly, grabbed her, and dragged her inside the shelter. She screamed at him, telling him to mind his own business, but he told her he had idea. The area around them was full of tall trees of good quality, so he suggested they use the wood to build a strong boat and travel with it to the castle. When the rain stopped, Anne started thinking about everything Helk had done so far, especially how he tried to save her from the gate and how he had many chances to kill her but didn't. Quietly, she started to accept the possibility that Helk might not actually be their enemy. At the same time in the castle, Azudora heard a report that Vermilio and the others disappeared. He suggested sending a search team, but Han told him this would take a long time because they wouldn't know where to start looking. Azudora told him not to worry. He would use a locator spell to know Vermilio's exact location. Asta was surprised because she never heard of this spell before, but Han quickly told her the spell required DNA from Vermilio. Azudora smiled, remembering he cut Vermilio's hair before she left. Han shivered and assumed that Azudora was some kind of weird pervert who keeps girls' hair, but Azudora explained that Asta was the one who kept it. They placed the hair on the map and cast the spell, and it succeeded in locating Vermilio, but the mark didn't appear anywhere on the map. On the island, Vermilio, who was still using her alias Anne from management, went fishing to clear her mind and determine if Helk was an enemy or an ally. She thought about asking him directly about his true intentions, but she feared this might cause huge problems. She was so deep in thought that she didn't notice she had caught something. When she tried to pull it, it was so strong that she used all her strength, but she broke the fishing rod. But Helk suddenly jumped into the water and saved the creature she hooked. Anne was shocked when she saw him helping her. Again, Helk emerged with the creature, but it turned out not to be a fish at all. It was a huge seahorse. The next day, Anne woke up in bed and noticed that the pajamas Helk made for her were very comfortable, more than she expected. She had even set a trap before she went to sleep, but it didn't trigger, meaning Helk didn't try to attack her. Someone knocked on the door, and she opened it to find a pink ogre coming to bring breakfast, but he admitted he ate half of it because he was very hungry. Anne let him keep the rest and asked him where he came from. The ogre explained he was from the village, and the chief tasked him with delivering food to her. Anne asked about the village, and when she walked through it, she discovered it was full of strange magical creatures that were not hostile at all. Suddenly, she heard a loud sound from the east and assumed Helk might be trying to build the boat. Nat to escape. She ran towards the sound and found Helk inside the forest, surrounded by a strong golden aura. She hid behind a rock so he wouldn't notice her. Helk swung the axe and chopped down trees with ease. Even the axe couldn't withstand his strength and fell apart, so he started using his hand directly to destroy the trees. Anne hit the rock with her fist out of anger, and Helk sensed something immediately. The green bird chirped quickly to cover for her, but Helk still found them and came out of their hiding spot. She asked him what he was doing exactly. Helk Helk explained that he still didn't know the right direction, but he wanted to start building the boat so they would be ready when they determined it. Before Anne could reply, she sensed something from the other direction. She ran towards the coast and found remains of a castle sunken in the sea. Helk told her he noticed remains like this scattered across the island, meaning their ancestors built this castle. After a while, Helk finished building the boat. It looked ugly, but it could float. At that moment, a grumpy old man appeared suddenly and instructed them to follow him immediately. Anne sensed instantly that the old man had a strong aura and assumed he was surely the village chief. They agreed to follow him, but Anne remained cautious because she didn't trust him at all. They reached the center of the forest and found themselves surrounded by people wearing hoods. Anne immediately assumed this was an ambush and prepared to attack. But then everyone, including the village chief, removed their hoods and said this was all just a prank. It was their traditional way of welcoming strangers. To make matters worse, Helk was in on the prank, and this increased Anne's anger even more. After a while, the villagers organized a feast, and finally Anne calmed down when she started eating. After the feast, Anne explained to the chief that they needed to return to the continent. The chief admitted that he didn't know how to help them because he never tried to leave the island, but he told her a wise witch would come down from the mountain soon and give them the information they needed. The problem was that Anne couldn't visit her directly because the villagers annoyed the witch a lot, so she created a protective barrier that no one could pass. Anne decided to wait for the witch to come to them. She spent the rest of the day fishing with the villagers. When evening came, they sat by the shore eating the porridge he made. While talking, Anne asked Helk why he chose to save her when she was being pulled into the gate. Helk said he considered her one of his friends because she and the other demons welcomed him warmly when he arrived in the demon world. Anne suddenly felt regret for the doubts she had harbored against him. Helk started talking about his loneliness and his relief at finally finding friends. He explained that Edel, the winged knight they met earlier, was one of his closest comrades, but in the end, he became their enemy, and Edel was killed by one of the soldiers. Anne couldn't stop herself from feeling pity for him. The fighting ended faster than expected, so they returned to the house. On the way, Anne asked Helk honestly about his intentions when they returned to the capital. Would he really abandon the humans? Helk replied without hesitation and said yes, he would fight them without a second thought. When a human undergoes awakening, they lose their humanity completely and become just a living weapon. Helk wanted to rid the world of these monsters. At the same time, Hura and the others were still hiding in the cave when one of the winged knights descended upon them. They immediately started fighting, but Hura was not as confident as before. This squad was much stronger than the ones they faced earlier. After a while, Hura noticed that the number of enemies was too great for just the three of them. Since Kenros was the fastest one, she asked him to run back and inform the Demon Empire, but he refused. He wouldn't leave them. Suddenly, Han and Asta arrived and immediately eliminated the first wave of monsters. They told the others they had a plan to deal with the entire army and ordered everyone to follow them. The group ran inside the cave until they reached the desert, but they had to stop because the winged knights surrounded them from every side. Hura appeared and thought they were finished, but Han told her not to worry. They reached a good distance from the fog. Leader Azudora appeared wearing a strange mask, apparently, and he was very concerned about scaring people, so he always wears the mask to hide his scary facial expressions. Azudora tried to negotiate with the knights first and told them there was no need for fighting and that they could live together in peace. The knights laughed in his face and told him they would never live with demons. Azudora took off the mask and showed his very serious face. When he understood that the knights wouldn't listen to him, he released his power. Huge threads, like trees, came out of the ground and grabbed every knight in the air. The leader tried to escape, but he was pulled too. The knights trembled when they saw more than 1,000 of their soldiers being neutralized by one person. They finally understood who they were dealing with. Leader Azudora, one of the famous 4 elite lords. Everyone was shocked because they never imagined that Azudora was this strong alone. He can control any tree in the empire, and even those planted here, as long as the roots are still intact. Azudora approached the winged knights and told them he didn't want to kill them and preferred if they surrendered peacefully, but the knights refused to cooperate. Suddenly, another unit of winged knights appeared. Everyone assumed they were coming to save their comrades and attack them. The new knights started shooting arrows, and everyone assumed the attack was aimed at them, but the arrows were actually aimed at the knights Azudora held. The knights were stabbed in their backs by their comrades again. Hura noticed this pattern. It was the same thing that happened with Didel when he lost the battle. The leader of the knights fell to the ground and told Azudora that capturing them would ruin their plans, so they agreed to die if they were captured by the enemy. He added that heroes never truly die and always return. He raised his sword, killed himself, and made the other knights' bodies disappear and turn into golden particles flying in the air. The particles returned to their base, and the knights were restored to full health. The human king Edel, who died before, returned as well. At the same time, Asta infiltrated the human human base and saw the knights returning. She thought about getting closer to learn information, but she decided it was dangerous. In the desert, she served tea while receiving a telepathic message from Asta. She relayed the information to everyone and said that the knights who died returned again. Azadora assessed the situation and concluded that the humans' threat level is currently only C, meaning not a major concern yet. But since they awakened as heroes, they will continue to grow in power and might reach threat level A or even S. The real problem is that the knights return and get stronger every battle, meaning they must be careful when they face them. Azadora suggested removing the knight's ability to return. He is sure that no creature lives forever and believes that the return must be by magic or a spell. His theory is that killing the human king will prevent the knights from returning. He remembers that the king slayer can revive, so he knows this method works. A contract with the king allows the heroes to return, but this only works on awakened heroes. Azadora noted that there might be other beings awakened like heroes, and they might surpass them in power. Even if the chances are low, he urged everyone to exert their maximum effort. Asta had reported earlier that the humans intended to attack Urim Castle the next day, so Azadora ordered them to be ready to intercept them. Their main goal is to defeat the human king, not the winged knights. The next morning, everyone prepared a defensive base in Thor Castle to prepare for the coming human army. At the same time, Azadora and Han returned to the place where the gate was made. Azadora planned to open the gate again, so the destination on the other side would reach Vermilio's location. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough mana to make a gate large enough to allow a person to pass, so he decided to send supplies instead. The package included a magical pathfinder, a handwritten letter for encouragement, and an orange, Vermilio's favorite food. On the island, Helk was busy playing with the birds, and Anne was deep in thought, remembering Helk's words that he had scores to settle with humans. She gradually started to trust him a bit. The pink ogre from before told her that the witch had finally arrived. Anne ran excitedly to know the answers, but when she arrived, the witch had already left the place. At first, Anne blamed herself for being slow, but the ogre that this was partly his fault because he fell asleep after the witch arrived and didn't alert her immediately. The old man reassured her and told her that he told the witch about their situation, and the witch agreed to remove her barrier so they could visit the place at any time. After a while, Pee-wee guided them to the mountain until they reached the witch's place. Anne stopped suddenly, feeling a terrible power coming from the building. She remained cautious, but she reassured herself because the witch was a friend of the village. They got closer, and when they arrived, they were shocked to find that the witch wasn't an ugly old woman, but a very beautiful lady. The witch told them immediately that she knew they wanted to return to the continent and revealed to them that the continent was in the northwest. Helk was very happy and urged Anne to start immediately. Anne started thinking if there were other continents too. The witch advised Helk not to rush and told them to prepare well before they went to the sea. She warned them that the boat he made was temporary and not enough, and suggested they consult the people of the village to build a better boat. The witch explained to them that the biggest challenge would be capturing a creature called Kerstag. Kerstags have a habit of traveling between the island and the continent, and could help them determine the direction if they got lost. The witch warned that the Kerstag was very rare and showed her a picture. Anne noticed it was the same creature she caught while fishing in the sea before. Helk remembered that he found it at the bottom of the sea and dove immediately to look for the Kerstags. After he left, the witch warned Anne about Helk and told her he was more dangerous than he seemed, and told her not to assume he was always an ally, because if he turned against them, they wouldn't be ready. Anne took the warning into consideration and kept remembering this. After a while, Helk returned with 3 Kerstags, and they prepared to set off. Everyone was sad about their departure from the island, but Helk promised them that he would visit them if the chance arose. Pee-wee jumped on Anne's face and told her that he would miss her the most. Anne promised him that she would visit him if she could, and they started their journey towards the continent. After they traveled a bit, Pee-wee popped out of the barrel insisting that he would travel with them. Anne got annoyed and wanted to turn the boat around and return him because she didn't want to take Pee-wee on such a dangerous mission. She noticed a message tied to Pee-wee's chest from the witch advising them to take Pee-wee with them because his body was very strong. Anne remained in disbelief and told Helk to turn the boat around. Suddenly, a sea monster appeared and attacked their boat. Helk thought about fighting it directly, but Anne told him that was a bad idea and sped the boat away. After they escaped, she finally agreed to take Pee-wee with them because they had already reached this far. They continued their journey for hours until they reached a foggy area assumed to be the dangerous area the witch warned them about. They released the Kerstigs into the water, and they started leading them in the opposite direction, meaning they were lost in the fog. But they trusted the Kerstigs when they saw ruins of an ancient civilization. For several days, their journey went smoothly until they met a violent thunderstorm and were sucked into a whirlpool. The sea monster that appeared before returned to finish what it started. Helk jumped on the sea monster and hit it with a strong blow. blow, but it acted, and Anne assumed that the monster was immune to human attacks. Helk kept distracting the monster and told Anne to use this chance to escape. Anne refused and said there was no way she would leave him behind. The whirlpool gradually started pulling the boat, and Anne was forced to speed away, leaving Helk behind. When they got out of the range of the whirlpool, she looked back and saw Helk being overcome by the sea monster, and in the end, he was sucked under the water. Anne screamed at him not to die, but after several minutes without any sign of him, she assumed he died. The storm finally calmed, and the continent appeared. Anne walked to the destination and exploded with anger when she saw Helk standing in front of her with a silly smile without any harm at all. Pee-wee was very happy when he saw Helk alive. Helk explained to them that after he defeated the sea monster, he was sucked into the whirlpool, but he swam at maximum speed and reached the destination. He told Anne not to worry about him because he had an important mission and wouldn't die easily. Anne calmed down because she knew he risked his life for them. They returned the cursed eggs to their original place and walked to the forest looking for a nearby village. During their progress, Anne sensed another presence. Suddenly, they were surrounded by a group of barbarians intending to take them prisoner. The barbarians seemed like beginners and afraid, so Anne decided not to enter a defensive stance and agreed to go with them as a prisoner. They were wearing wooden shackles that Helk could break easily. The barbarians took them to the village, and the village was in bad condition. They explained to them that they were from the Toffman tribe, and the Toffman king cursed them after he waged war on their village. She understood they were captured to be offered as slaves to appease the king. Suddenly, the village chief arrived. When he saw the innocent ones in the shackles, he hit a barbarian and ordered the removal of the shackles. A sound of big commotion happened when the Toffman king and his retinue arrived with great chaos in the village. The village chief faced the king, but he and his followers beat him immediately. He announced that to satisfy his desire for excitement, he would conquer all other kingdoms and enslave the barbarians as his army. The chief objected and thought about reminding him of the agreement between them to leave the village in peace. But the king announced the plan changed, and he wanted to turn them into mindless slaves. When the king raised his weapon to hit the chief, Helk intervened and threw a soldier away, easily, leaving the king in shock. Anne stepped forward, created a fire barrier, and said she wouldn't allow this injustice. The king sent soldiers to fight, but Helk and Anne cut through the army in seconds. The annoyed king decided to kill them himself and attacked Helk, unleashing his special killing blow made of smoke around him. He assumed he defeated Helk, but Anne remained calm, knowing that Helk is hard to kill. Helk appeared behind the king, and the king was shocked when he saw someone survived his attack. Helk kept a serious face and told the king that even if he directed any of his deadly strikes at him, he wouldn't be able to kill him. The king tried to attack him with a barrage of attacks, and Helk ignored them all. Helk replied with a single blow from below and sent the king crashing to the ground. Anne was impressed, seeing that a single blow was enough to disable the king. The king was still conscious. Helk ordered him to swear he would never return to the village. The Toffman king got very angry and refused, and Anne felt a sudden increase in his aura. His body changed and became a giant version of himself. The big monster started destroying everything around him. Anne tried to hit his arm with a fire attack, but to her surprise, the arm regenerated immediately. Anne was silenced, feeling that his power increased greatly, and felt she would die if she let her guard down. At the same time, Helk was focused on his aura in the back. Finally, he hit the monster and cut off his arm, but this time it didn't regenerate. It appeared he consumed all his energy in regeneration and fell to the ground, meaning it was over. After that, barbarian soldiers approached them. Anne thought they might be upset because their leader was killed, but the barbarians approached to thank them, then left. Anne understood that the barbarians couldn't disobey the Toffman king. They returned to meet the others, but Pee-wee suddenly called out to them and said that all the barbarians started glowing. The barbarians revealed their true form, and they were very cute. The village chief approached them and was the cutest among them. Everyone, including the village chief and Anne, thanked them for saving them from the Toffman king. Anne announced that they would leave the next day. The barbarians threw a big party at night to bid them farewell. The next morning, they decided to continue their journey westward because there were two big kingdoms there, and they might find a map leading to their empire. On the way, a traveler told them that the nearest two kingdoms were at war and everything was burned. Anne panicked when she heard this because she remembered that it used to be Thor Castle. They ran to the nearby city and saw it was just a merchant city, but they noticed a human girl sitting by the fountains singing a very beautiful song. They thought she might be one of the war survivors. After that, they went to meet a merchant to ask about a map to their empire. Luckily, the man said he had the map, but it would cost them. They were out of money and had to collect 50,000 lin to get the map. They went to pawn shops, and Helk managed to exchange his crystals and get 25,000 lin, so 25,000 remained. Helk suggested they do jobs to get the rest, but Anne doubted it would be easy because just one lunch cost 88 lin. She estimated it would take a very long time to complete the money, Suddenly, the town crier called out and said that the cooking competition would start and the grand prize was 30,000 lin, but they needed to pay a registration of 1,000 lin. Anne understood that this was the chance they were looking for. She ran quickly with Helk and announced they wanted to participate. Everyone looked at them and laughed and told them there was no chance for them. Suddenly, the best cooks in the city arrived and things started to heat up. However, Anne kept believing in Helk's skill, so she encouraged him. The scene shifted to the cooking arena, and the other cooks started showing their great skills in cooking. This left the judges and the audience in shock. They started feeling sorry for the newcomers. Then they looked at Helk and noticed that he was chopping carrots with precision and great speed, and he also made smiling faces with the carrots. The audience was shocked very much. No one expected this from Helk. They tasted his dish and were very happy with its delicious taste. Everyone started to understand that they might have underestimated their abilities. Even the favorite Ajikaba admitted that Helk was at a level much higher than him, but this didn't make him give up. On the contrary, his enthusiasm increased. During all this, Pee-wee appeared singing with music he saw before because he got lost while looking for Helk and Anne. After a while, the judges announced that time was up. Anne looked at the faces of the other cooks. They were very confident of themselves, and this made Anne worry a little. The judges announced the results. 2 of the other cooks got 70 points, and Ajikaba got 98 points, while Anne and Helk got 120 points, and this made them the winners. Ajikaba fell to his knees from defeat and decided he would never cook again, but Helk went to him and praised his performance. This returned his enthusiasm to continue his cooking journey and not feel sad. Ajikaba gave Helk his cooking book and ran saying he would start his cooking journey from scratch. After a while, Pee-wee returned to them and told him that they went to look for the best food in the city to help them win the competition, but Anne told him the competition was already over, and this shocked him very much. After that, they went to meet the merchant from before to take the map. The merchant was shocked when he saw they managed to collect 50,000 lin in a few hours. She looked at the map and was happy, confirming that this was the map of their lands. All they had to do was walk towards the northwest and pass the 2 nearby kingdoms. Suddenly, the musician they saw before warned them not to continue from without caution. The Dark Warrior was known to be present around the 2 kingdoms, so she advised them to take an alternative, because if they didn't take this path, they might surely die. Anne thanked her for the advice, but told her that they didn't have much time, so they had to take the risk. They continued their journey until they reached the ruins of an old palace. Anne took one step and felt a severe chill go down her spine. A dark being appeared from afar and suddenly appeared in front of her. She was shocked and ready to accept her fate, but Helk hit him at the last moment. This must be the Dark Warrior they warned them about. He told Anne that he would deal with the situation and she should escape. Anne did what he said and took herself and Pee-wee to a safe place. She stood from afar and saw that the warrior was strong enough to hurt Helk. Helk kept fighting with all his strength. In the end, he destroyed the warrior's sword. This made Anne happy because she assumed the warrior's power decreased by half, but suddenly the sword regenerated and became like new and continued fighting Helk. Anne saw that Helk needed help, so she put Pee-wee on the ground and ran to launch a strong fire attack on the warrior. She was certain that the attack would cause damage, but the warrior ignored the attack as if it was nothing. After Helk hit the warrior again, the warrior caught him off guard and appeared behind him and used the sword to cut his chest. After this attack, Helk continued to fight, but she noticed that his attack started becoming slower, meaning the wound he took earlier was very deep. She asked how the monster could regenerate his body and weapon. She assumed he was using magic similar to the magic Azudora uses, and this meant that the only way to defeat him was knowing the location of the magician. Now, the best plan they had was to combine their power with Helk's power and try to escape. Suddenly, Anne felt a violent aura coming from Helk and saw him holding his red eye. Anne remembered what the witch told her on the island before leaving, that Helk was very dangerous, and his negative emotions might control him one day. Helk went crazy on the warrior and hit him with all his remaining strength, but Anne warned him to drop it because he was an invincible warrior. Suddenly, Pee-wee started singing a beautiful song, and in the next moment the Dark Warrior stood in place and was no longer aggressive. The clouds cleared, and Pee-wee announced he managed to calm the warrior by singing. Neither Helk nor Anne believed what happened. The Dark Warrior stood and started walking away from them. They followed him until he reached an old and dilapidated courtyard and explained to them that he was possessed by a curse called the Curse of Darkness. And this is a curse that increases strength and endurance greatly, but turns the person into a mindless monster. Although he knew the song would end well, he decided to accept the Curse of Darkness as a last resort to save his people, and that's why he was known now as the Dark Warrior. He took off his helmet and told them he remembered the battle that happened and thanked them because the battle and the song that Pee-wee sang helped him regain his mind. Anne noticed noticed him and told him that his body was disappearing, but he said to her not to worry because his physical body disappeared years ago. Now, after he was freed from the curse of darkness, his physical body would turn to ash. Before he disappeared, he gifted Helk his sword, and although it had a bit of curse on it, but he was confident that Helk could deal with it. And as a final request, he asked Pee-wee to sing the song once more. Pee-wee prepared to sing, but at that moment, Iris, the musician girl from before, entered asking to sing for him. She ran to the warrior and gave him a big hug because he was her big brother Augustus. Augustus was shocked when he saw she was still alive, but she reminded him that when she was a child, he saved her when he took the curse of darkness. Iris burst into tears and apologized because she couldn't save him earlier. After that, she fulfilled the last wish for him and sang his favorite song, while Anne and the others decided to leave them in their privacy. At the same time on the continent, the castle was under attack by the winged knights, but the demons were in control and managed to hold the defensive line. After a while, the special team led by Azudora succeeded in retaking the fourth castle and started strengthening the castle defenses to stand against the invading human army, but the humans could resurrect themselves again, so they sent repeated attacks, each stronger than the other. Edel faced Hura again, and when he thought he was strong enough to beat her, Hura proved him wrong and killed him instantly with one shot. They finished all the winged knights. All the soldiers returned inside the castle to have lunch. Inside the castle, Azudora seemed to have taken some knights prisoner, but it seemed they took precautions to kill themselves if they were captured. At this moment, she entered and gave a report to Azudora that the winged knight forces had an average combat capability of 30, while Edel was 36. Azudora wasn't happy when he knew they started advancing quickly. He thought he must strengthen the army or they might face huge losses. But on the positive side, their best soldiers' strength increased from all the fighting, with Hura's level reaching 52. Azudora felt relieved, but he remained a bit sad because Vermilio was still missing. Every time he tried to use the locator spell, it pointed to a place off the map, although he didn't expect much, but he tried again. This time the spell worked and actually landed on a place existing on the map. It seemed Vermilio was advancing until she crossed the ocean too. Azudora was relieved and happy at the same time. At this time in the human world, the winged knights were very annoyed and fighting with each other because they lost every battle against the Demon King. The leader advised them not to despair because their goal now was not winning but raising their power level until they became strong enough to be able to win. Asta was watching them from above, but one of the knights sensed her, so he flew up to check. Luckily, she managed to disappear before he arrived, and this meant she had to be more careful from now on. At the same time, Azudora was analyzing Vermilio's movements on the map and saw she was getting a bit closer to the Empire, which meant she knew her direction. Asta was asking if Helk was still traveling with her and if he would be considered a threat to them or not. Azudora said he couldn't know for sure, but one thing he knew was that if Vermilio was determined to continue traveling, and with Helk, most likely he wasn't an enemy to them. Everyone was hoping Helk would be with them because his presence as an ally would increase their chances of success. From the experiences Azudora went through with Helk before, he felt a strong feeling that they might be able to trust him. At this time, Helk and Anne were in another terrifying battle with a huge viper. Helk was ready to finish the viper, but Anne told him not to worry and just drove the viper away with her fire. The truth is, since the time Helk lost control while fighting the Dark Warrior, she was afraid to let him fight. She saw that Helk really hates humans, so he isn't their enemy. But after she saw him using that raw power, she was afraid to allow him to use it again. After a while, they all set up camp and Helk made delicious hot cocoa for everyone. Suddenly, Helk became serious and told Anne he had something to show her. He took out his short sword and explained to her that it used to be a long sword called the Hero Killer. As the name suggests, it had enough power to kill any hero, but the sword was broken in half by the Dark Warrior, so its power decreased a lot, but it was still capable of killing any hero face to face. He told Anne that he wanted her to take it, so if a day came when he decided to betray them, she would use it and kill him. Anne felt guilty and confessed and told him that she once suspected he was a human spy, but now she no longer suspected him, so there was no need for this dangerous sword. Helk appreciated her honesty, but insisted on giving her a summary of the events. That happened before. Maybe it would convince her to rethink the sword. He started narrating that he and his younger brother Kless grew up orphans in difficult circumstances. When Helk was 6 years old, a monster appeared in their village and killed their mother and father. The village was destroyed, and there was no hope in rebuilding it. Despite that, Helk encouraged Kless not to give up and continue for Mom and Dad. After, they went to the royal capital hoping they could find work even for children, but the capital was completely different from what they imagined. Helk was constantly beaten by some foolish nobles, but he didn't care as long as Kles was safe. Helk swore to protect Kles with his life, a promise he didn't intend to break. Helk awakened his heroic abilities when he was 8 years old, and this made him withstand the blows from the nobles and use the super recovery ability. Anne was very surprised when she knew Helk awakened his heroic abilities when he was young. She apologized for interrupting and asked him to continue the story. He continued and said that their life in the royal capital didn't improve. They were treated like trash and there was no respect for them. But leaving the capital wasn't an option. Monsters were appearing around the capital and they were afraid to go out. Helk planned that when the capital was surrounded by fewer monsters, that would be the right time to leave and seek a quiet life away from harassment. But unfortunately, another sad incident happened. Kles fell very ill due to malnutrition. One of their neighbors told Helk that Kles wouldn't survive the night. Helk was determined not to give up on his only brother. He took part of the money he was saving and went to look for help, but no one wanted to help them. Helk continued searching, but everyone was rejecting them and driving them away until he met a noble girl who saw Kles's condition and asked her father to help them. They took Kles to a doctor in the palace and he was saved. The man who saved them was a noble from the same class that made their lives hell, but at this moment all was forgotten. All that Helk felt was gratitude. From the day the noble girl saved them, their lives changed significantly. After 15 years, their village soldiers faced a huge monster that overcame their forces completely. Suddenly, Kles, who was 18 years old, appeared to save them. Kles became commander of the 3rd Infantry Battalion despite his young age and was loved by all. At this time, Helk, who was 22, stayed in the shadows. The little girl who helped them that day was the daughter of a noble named Shalom. Although Kles was seen, she continued to visit them and became their friend. With the noble help, the number of people harassing them decreased significantly, which made Kles happy. At this age, Kles decided to become a soldier like Shalom's father, so he started training without missing a day. He joined the army at 16 and was promoted to commander at 18. Kles became loved by everyone, while Helk remained in the shadows doing manual labor. Mr. Raff knew that although Kles was famous, he sensed great power inside Helk, but he didn't want to exploit it. Helk just said he gained the strength from hard work. With time, he noticed that Kles and Shalom might have feelings for each other, so he decided to support them fully because he knew that her being a noble and him not being a noble would make things difficult. With time, Kles and Shalom started drifting apart a bit, but in the end they got back together and drank with Helk. In one of the sessions, Kles told Helk he would travel on a journey in 2 days and faced with the many reported monsters. It might take time before he returned. Helk said it was fine, but asked Kles to promise to return safe. Kles promised him, and they shared a fist bump. Half a month after Kles's journey, the monsters started appearing more than ever before. To resist them, the king announced a military conscription. Helk was cast into the monster hunting unit and had to leave the capital for a while. One day, he faced a monster. Back then, Adel was still a child and very scared. The monster they met was strange, unlike anything they saw before, and this was the first time Helk met a monster of this kind, and he was very scared that he wanted to run away quickly. But since some of his colleagues were still alive, he couldn't leave them. Although he was hit many times by the monster, he continued to hit until he managed to defeat it. Anne understood that Helk was different from the start. Their unit was originally tasked with protecting Edel's city from the monsters. Edel was the Baron's son in the city. The soldiers who followed him were overcome by the monsters, so he went to the capital to request the monster hunting unit. But now the leader and the captain died, and the soldiers said there was nothing they could do and left. Adel was very worried when he saw the soldiers wouldn't help him. Helk went to him with a smile and told him that although he didn't have the strength of a whole unit, he was ready to help instead of going to the capital. Helk traveled with Edel to his city. After 3 days, they arrived and Edel fell to his knees in despair when he saw his city completely destroyed. He reassured him that they could still save it. They looked for survivors, but everywhere was strangely quiet. Helk saw a blonde girl fighting monsters alone. She was well trained, killing them without help. After a short introduction, Helk and Edel joined her to fight the monsters. When she saw Helk fighting, the girl was shocked by his strength. She admitted that she could defeat these monsters because she had a sword inherited from generations, but she didn't understand how Helk could defeat them with just his hands. Helk told her he used to work as a builder, and some survivors too, since most of the city's residents were evacuated. Edel understood that the blonde girl must be part of a mercenary group. She confirmed it and said they were just passing by when they saw the smoke and decided to help. The girl's name was Alicia, and she led a specialized mercenary group. moves. Edel thanked Alicia for her effort, but asked for one last favor. He wanted her and her group to fight with them, expecting another monster attack. Alicia expressed her opinion and said they should leave the city for safety, but she added that if Helk was willing to help, they would also participate. Helk agreed and said the reason he was there was to fight monsters, and that was the beginning of Helk's days as a mercenary. With time, monsters were appearing without warning, and often when Helk was enjoying himself. Although these were tough times, being around people like Alicia and her group always made him smile. They helped him fight without consuming his negative emotions. Over time, Alicia kept wondering about his strength. He had superhuman strength, and his wounds healed almost instantly. But Helk didn't have an explanation. He just had a natural talent. Alicia said her family were mercenaries for generations. Her father was a mercenary, and it was rumored that her grandfather was a hero who fought before the founding of the kingdom. Helk was skeptical about the subject because he heard these tales only in fairy tales. Alicia admitted she was very confident in her abilities to the point she thought no one could surpass her until she met Helk, whose strength defied everything she knew. Helk was fighting comfortably without weapons. Alicia was helpless without her weapon, but Helk didn't like to make her feel weak, and Alicia reassured him with a smile and told him he was amazing and made her continue to improve. She insisted he join the mercenaries permanently, and Helk agreed. Helk continued hunting monsters with Alicia and her group for 4 continuous years, fighting non-stop. However, the number of monsters in the area didn't decrease at all. In fact, the more monsters they defeated, the greater the destruction became. One day, Mr. Rayfed announced that the origin of all problems existed in the demon world, and he intended to send a team tasked with eliminating them. Alicia understood immediately that this talk wasn't true. Demons weren't the cause of the monsters appearing. Not long after that, the Human King requested a single warrior to undertake the mission. Kless went out to defeat the Demon King. At this time, the mercenaries were worried about Kless entering the demon world, so they suggested that Helk at least say goodbye to him. Helk just said it wasn't necessary. He was confident that Kless could return safely, alone. After 3 weeks, the human world celebrated when the news arrived that Kless defeated the Demon King after a deadly battle. Kless chose the Demon King's side and ended his life. A new era of peace began, but Helk wasn't in a state to celebrate. He ran to the emergency room and saw Kless severely injured. The battle with the Demon King was very violent, and Kless was poisoned. Helk approached his brother and told him he couldn't die now. He simply wouldn't allow it. He looked up and saw the same doctors who helped Kless as a child. Mr. Rafe introduced them to him and told him Marcus, the great sage who fought alongside Kless in the battle against the Demon King. Marcus admitted that although he fought with them, he was almost useless in defeating the Demon King, but he was sure that Kless wouldn't die from this injury. They treated him once, and they would treat him again. Although the citizens were celebrating outside, Alicia knew that little had changed. Monsters were still appearing even after the Demon King's defeat. Everyone just told them to give it time. Alicia was right. A herd of monsters started approaching their city. The citizens were very scared and asked the soldiers as if accusing the soldiers of lying about the Demon King's death. They called for Kless, even though he was in critical condition, to come out and fight. Helk didn't believe the soldiers lied about Kless's victory, but he assumed the Demon King might have found a way to return to life. Alicia warned him not to act rashly, but Helk's expression froze, and he told her he would defeat the Demon King. Helk entered the demon world violent. He faced Azudora at first, mistaking him for the Demon King. Although Azudora wasn't at full power, he directed some devastating attacks at him, and Helk countered each one easily, which shocked Azudora. Helk asked why monsters were still appearing on their land, but Azudora explained to him that demons weren't the cause. Monsters emerged from the land itself. Helk knew that Azudora wasn't the Demon King, but he was one of the 4 elites who rule the Demon Empire, and this gives him higher authority than the Demon King. Azudora reassured Helk that demons had no intention of attacking the human world. He explained to him that the sudden increase in monsters was a result of the humans' attack on their castle. This castle was protecting them from corruption and preventing monsters from appearing. Helk was shocked and understood that humans were deceived and believed demons were a threat to them for hundreds of years, despite the truth being different. Azudora showed him a burial place they made from tree roots for all their comrades who died during the castle attack. When Helk saw the memorial, he understood that the Empire had enough power to wipe out the human kingdom completely and wondered why they didn't do that. Azudora revealed to them that they wanted one day to restore friendship between humans and demons, and believed that peaceful coexistence could happen. Helk was surprised by this. Azudora continued explaining the history of the time when humans and demons lived in peace, and clarified that the Demon King tried to offer Kless a peaceful alternative before fighting because he was the most peaceful person among them. Helk knew Kless was a skilled warrior and didn't like fighting, so he didn't understand why he insisted on fighting when it wasn't necessary. Azudora reassured him that peace could still happen. Helk was about to leave to report this information when Azudora stopped him and told him him that while they were inside the castle, he placed a magical barrier to reduce monster appearances. He warned him that a new demon king might appear, and this would make things more dangerous. He handed him a flyer about the new demon king competition and explained to him how he knew about the subject. Anne understood why Azudora trusted Helk so much. Helk noticed that although the monster problem wasn't solved, he was relieved when he knew that monsters weren't hostile towards humans. But he hesitated to share this information with anyone in the human world because he didn't know what their reaction would be. A little later, when he arrived at the kingdom's entrance, he saw corpses scattered everywhere, which made his heart shudder. He ran inside to check on his friends and found them alive, but slightly injured. He asked them what happened, and they explained to him that the nobles didn't know how to act without Kless, and when things got out of control, the castle was closed and they had to take on an impossible battle. Edel and Alicia fought to their last energy and survived, but the other soldiers didn't survive. One asked Helk to check on Alicia and Edel. Helk walked towards the castle and broke down when he saw civilians throwing stones at demons tied to poles. He got very angry and stepped forward and told them this treatment was unacceptable, even with demons. The humans ignored him and continued screaming and throwing stones. Helk understood how easily humans act mercilessly. Mr. Raphid appeared and warned Helk not to be deceived by demons' words and told him this wasn't their true nature. Suddenly, the material demons turned into giant forms, which made everyone run away. Despite that, some heroes might have intervened and killed the demons. Helk started doubting if the words Azudora was a lie or not. At that time, Alicia and Edel arrived and were happy when they saw Helk unharmed. Mr. Raphid walked away and told Helk not to be deceived and to trust him. The next day, the nobles announced to the people about the discovery of an artificial awakening and said it would allow them to wipe out all demons on Earth. The human kingdom announced war on the demons, and with the artificially awakened heroes, they could wipe them out easily. But Helk found it hard to believe that everything Azudora said could be a lie. He didn't share his encounter with Azudora with anyone because he didn't know what their reaction would be. So he planned to have dinner with Edel and Alicia to reveal everything to them before he could. A warrior who fought alongside Kless in the demon world arrived asking for Helk's help. A man named Zero, commander of the heavy infantry, met Helk and warned him about the awakening that would happen among the soldiers. He explained to him that the awakening increases power significantly, but destroys the mind and leaves the victims unconscious. Zero saw that the kingdom intended to turn itself into a special state for nobles. He didn't know all the details, but he knew that all people would awaken at the same time and expected to play a role. Zero clarified that he opposed the plan. Helk was shocked when Zero revealed to him that Marcus was the one who devised the whole plan. Zero warned Helk that he shouldn't trust anyone from the upper classes, and that failure to stop the plan would turn all people, including Helk's mercenary friends, into mindless awakened zombies. Zero admitted that facing a whole army would be foolish. Instead, their goal was to eliminate the mage controlling the awakening. This mage is the king, but since they didn't know his location, the next target was Kless, who was working as a key element in the operation with his unconscious body. The awakening is executed. Zero thought that stopping Kless would be a service to him. Helk was pained remembering that he might have to kill his only brother, but he understood that this was necessary. Zero knew that Helk's superhuman strength made him the right person for the mission. He bowed and asked for Helk's help. Helk put his hand on Zero's shoulder and agreed to help. Alicia heard what was happening and joined them, and then Edel joined, unable to let them act alone. At night, they entered the castle quietly. Things were going well until they met the awakened heroes who immediately attacked them. Helk and his team worked together and defeated them in record time. Helk revealed that he met with Azudora, who reassured him that the demon world didn't intend to attack humans and wanted peace. His colleagues were skeptical, thinking Azudora's words were just lies, especially after they saw Helk's power. Alicia, despite her doubt, appreciated his honesty and promised that after the mission they would explore the demon world themselves. They advanced to Kless's room, but noticed a strange stillness. Kless was sitting unconscious on the throne. Suddenly Marcus appeared. Zero begged him to stop, but the rest of the nobles revealed themselves and supported the awakening to make powerful soldiers who couldn't disobey orders. Alicia argued that the soldiers didn't join to be slaves, but the nobles didn't care and continued using magic. They cast a gravity spell, forcing everyone to the ground, and then a mind control spell, forcing them to end their own lives. Everyone was about to execute it, except Helk. He met the nobles' eyes and told them their plan was pathetic. He managed to break the spell on the others and shock the nobles when they knew that Helk's power exceeded their expectations. The nobles tried to call the awakened knights to help them, but Marcus refused and told them they couldn't defeat Helk. Instead, he released Kless as the perfect opponent. Kless opened his eyes surrounded by a dark aura and attacked Helk. Marcus explained that when he saved Kless as a child, he discovered a special ability in him, and today he used it fully to shape the world as he wanted. Kless attacked mercilessly, but Helk was only dodging, not wanting to hurt his brother. During the battle, Kless's sword wounded Helk, and the others asked him to retreat, but Helk hesitated, not wanting to leave his brother behind. Alicia intervened and hit Kless in the chest. Marcus mocked, thinking this wouldn't make a difference, but Kless fell to his knees from pain. The sword Alicia used was the hero killer, and it was a powerful enough weapon to incapacitate Kless temporarily. Marcus attacked and hit Alicia with electricity, forcing her to drop the sword. Then he appeared behind Helk and stabbed his back with the weapon. Helk felt indescribable pain and felt he was about to lose consciousness. Zero, seeing this for the first time, wondered if Helk was really a hero. All the nobles watching agreed that there was no doubt Helk was a hero. Marcus tried to convince Helk to join them, but the idea of turning soldiers into crazy slaves angered Helk, and he unleashed all his remaining power. Helk threw a punch, but Marcus disappeared at the last moment. Marcus mocked and pulled the hero killer sword, ready to finish Helk. Suddenly, Kless appeared from behind and cut off Marcus's 2 arms. Shocked, Marcus understood that Kless was freed from the mind control, but he smiled and said it was over. At this moment, the king stood and tried to control him, but Kless suddenly threw his sword at the king's forehead. Everyone breathed, thinking the king died, but he survived and ordered Kless to kill. Helk, the dark aura, returned to control Kless while he was carrying the hero killer sword and heading towards his brother. He raised the sword to strike, but with a slight turn, he hit himself instead of Helk. Helk was very shocked and devastated by the thought that his brother had to suffer because of the nobles' greed. The nobles were angry for the wrong reasons. They started mocking Kless and said he was worthless, even in death. This final insult broke Helk's control. The same dark aura that was around him before flared up and frightened everyone around him. Even the awakened heroes hid in the corners. Helk terrified the nobles, announcing that he would slaughter every single one of them. The nobles were terrified of his power, so they begged for mercy immediately before. Helk exploded with rage. Alicia hugged him and calmed him down immediately. She apologized because she brought the sword that took his brother's life and promised him that from now on, she would protect him. Helk calmed down, and Alicia put him on the ground when the aura disappeared. The nobles ordered the awakened heroes to attack Helk and his allies. Alicia and the others entered the battle to protect him, so Helk lost consciousness from his injuries. He woke up in a cave, realizing Kless's death was real. He heard voices outside and thought at first they were his colleagues, but found 2 of the stupid bounty hunters instead of them. He started looking for his friends, but stopped when one of them mentioned that his colleagues were killed to ensure he escaped safe. Helk had a flashback while on his knees and cried out, devastated by his guilt because he failed to protect his brother and friends. The thieves laughed and revealed that they were just joking and his friends were still alive and detained in the capital for public execution. When he understood that explaining to them was useless, one tried to attack Helk with a stick, but the stick broke on his head. They understood immediately that Helk was out of their league. Without wasting time with the petty thieves, Helk put on his gear and started his journey to the capital. This time, he promised himself that everything would be different. He would save his friends. A little later, while on his way to the capital, he was attacked by angry civilians running at him, screaming that he was a traitor. Helk destroyed them easily and caused shock to all the people who saw him, and they started wondering how he became this strong. Then an army of winged soldiers appeared. The nobles had even brought back one of his colleagues and turned him into a zombie under their control. Helk had a flashback to the memories, sweet memories with his friends. He gathered his strength and decided he wouldn't let anyone else die, and decided to fight in a different way this time. The battlefield turned into a nightmare of corpses, and Helk stood alone amidst the destruction. At the same time in the kingdom, civilians gathered, seeing Alicia sitting waiting for execution. The prosecutor mocked her and asked her to beg for mercy, but she knew this wouldn't matter. The executioner put the cleaver on the ground, but missed completely. He was trembling with fear. He felt a strong and violent presence. The prosecutor felt the same sensation, and shivers ran through his body. The audience noticed the scary aura and fled. Suddenly, Helk appeared behind them, not carrying the same dark aura that appeared after his brother's death. Everyone cleared the way for him to reach Alicia. Helk grabbed the prosecutor by his head and asked him who was responsible for this. The man tried to pin the blame on Doivona, the civilians, but they denied everything. Helk understood how cruel humans could be. He threw the prosecutor into the fleeing crowd, freed Alicia, and told her they must escape to the demon world. There they would be treated better. Alicia agreed and said she would follow him anywhere as long as they were together. Snow started falling, and Lord Raphid appeared. He admitted that he might have underestimated Helk, and said he assumed Helk might have exhausted all his power after what happened. But here, he was fighting for the people he cared about. Raphid warned that the awakening had started. Civilians were screaming as wings were coming out of their backs. Helk watched this with horror and missed her. Raphid explained that this falling snow was the spell activating the awakening. Helk and Kless were the only ones who could stop this. The others would turn into mindless, winged zombies. Alicia screamed when her eyes eyes started turning into a hero's eye of the awakening and asked Helk to kill her. She didn't want to hurt anyone else. Helk hugged her tight, refusing to give up. Alicia's mind started collapsing more, and she asked him again to end her life before she gave in completely. She made one last request. She covered one of her eyes and asked Helk to smile, so this would be her last memory of him. Her wing came out of her back, and with that, her transformation into an awakened hero was complete. Anne heard this part of the story and thought that she always knew that. Helk was hiding something, but she never knew what it was. The smile he showed in front of people was fake all the time. He hates humans very much and wants to become the Demon King to avenge his friends. Helk continued telling the story about what happened after Alicia transformed. He ran as fast as possible and tried with all his effort to see if there was anything he could do to reverse all this. But Mr. Raffed was just looking down at him and telling him to give up because there was no way to stop the awakening. Suddenly, Zero landed in front of him, appearing to have awakened too. Unlike the others, Zero didn't turn into a mindless zombie. He accepted the awakening and managed to keep part of his consciousness. But the power that came with the awakening let the authority overwhelm him, and he kept attacking Helk using the hero killer sword. Helk thought at first that the solution was simple for all this, which was killing the king, and thus the soldiers would be free from mind control. He went immediately to the castle intending to kill the king, but he met Marcus above, still alive after the battle that happened between him and Helk. Helk was very angry when he saw him and released his power and jumped on Marcus and punched him, but Marcus disappeared and dodged all the hits. After a while, Marcus drew Helk's attention downward, and there he saw his brother Kless surrounded by some magical worms. Although he looked a bit like a monster now, Kless was preserved in a mummy state because Marcus still needed him. If he used him correctly, he could control the immense power of Kless. When Helk heard this, he got angrier, so he gathered immense power and created a large vacuum. Then he managed to cut off Marcus's hand before he could react. Marcus was shocked. To end the situation immediately, he created a magical portal above Helk that would transport him to a somewhat distant place. Helk tried with all his strength to resist, but he was pulled into the portal anyway, and this made him arrive in the demon world. Anne heard this part of the story and felt sympathy for Helk. She advised him to leave the matter as it is and let the humans deal with it because they are the ones being attacked. Helk continued telling and said that when he arrived for the first time in the demon world, he was wandering aimlessly until Kenros found him and took him to civilization. Kenros and the rest of the demons didn't care that he was human and treated him kindly and welcomed him. Anne now understood that Helk wasn't just doing this to take revenge on humans. He was doing it to protect the demons and keep them safe. Helk knew that the winged knight's power was growing day by day, so he felt that the demon army might face difficulty in eliminating them at a certain stage. That's why he felt he was the one who must do this. Because he has the power as a human, he felt a bit responsible, but he knew that sometimes he might get very angry and attack even those with him. That's why he wanted to leave Anne the hero killer sword, so if he went crazy, she would use it on him and stop him. Anne was very moved and couldn't lie to Helk anymore. She stood up and confessed that she was actually Lady Vermilio, one of the 4 elite lords of the Empire all along. She apologized for lying to him and told him to come live in the kingdom when all this is over. By the way, she agreed to his request to use the hero killer sword if necessary, but on the condition that he doesn't fight with the intention of dying and fights as if he wants to live. A tear fell on Helk's face from joy, and he agreed to her condition. At the same time, a tracking demon named Harpy was sent to the far continent to look for Vermilio, but she didn't find anything. All she found were remnants of the battle with the winged knights. This was her first mission, so she wondered how she would find Lady Vermilio alone. At the same time, Vermilio, Helk, and Pee-wee planned to take the train because they heard it was very fast. Helk and Pee-wee had never ridden a train before, so they were a bit excited. After a while, the train arrived. They spent a very enjoyable day on the train. They arrived at the valley the next day. They traveled a bit and met a huge monster, but they managed to defeat it easily, and Vermilio burned its body. After a while, they met an old man who introduced himself as the mayor of the town ahead. He warned them against continuing because a dangerous monster had been attacking the area for a long time. Vermilio was a bit confused, then understood that the monster he was talking about was the same monster they defeated a while ago. The old man didn't believe and thought they were lying, but after some of his troops confirmed it, he screamed with joy and suggested holding a party at night. They held a party and welcomed Vermilio and Helk with open arms. They were happy on the roof, but suddenly Harpy flew in and told them who she was and why she came. After finding Vermilio, she breathed a sigh of relief and joined them for dinner. Vermilio was deep in thought. She understood that Harpy could carry her and Pee-wee to the Empire, but she wouldn't be able to carry Helk, so they concluded they must go to the Empire on foot. Suddenly, Harpy ran to Vermilio and handed her a written letter from Azudora. The letter told her to go to the south in the demon world instead of the Empire because the next stage of their plan would happen there. Vermilio concluded that this was normal behavior from Azudora, but she was happy to know that Helk was now considered part of the Empire's forces. At the same time in the castle, Han and Asta were scolding Azudora because he encouraged the soldiers to keep fighting the winged knights. But Azudora told them this was all part of his plan. The plan's goal wasn't to defeat the soldiers, but to create a distraction. At the same time, the demon soldiers were on the battlefield, facing the knights who regenerated again. They managed to resist more than the last time, but they were still no match for them. Hura faced Edel in a one-on-one duel. Although Edel managed to hold on for a while, Hura eventually killed him and cut off his wing. He fell to the ground in pain and swore he would return and kill Hura himself, but his body was transported and revived again. At the same time in the castle, Azudora was determined on the idea of distraction with the soldiers, while Helk and Vermilio were the real threat. Han wondered if only 2 people were enough to deal with the main forces, but Azudora reminded them that Vermilio and Helk were much stronger than ordinary soldiers. His distraction plan was to make the humans think they were in a tough spot, which would make them lower their guard and give a perfect opportunity for Helk and Vermilio to attack the soldiers on the battlefield. It was just a distraction, but there was something else worrying Azudora. He felt the presence of a strange human nearby. The power behind him might even be close to Helk's. Azudora thought that the Demon King in Urim Castle was known to be one of the strongest demon kings in the entire empire, but he was killed by a human. Azudora suspected that human who killed the Demon King was the owner of the disturbing aura he felt now. There wasn't much they could do, and all they could do was wait until Asta returned with information. At the same time, Asta was doing an excellent job gathering information in the human world and had been absent for a long time and hadn't been caught yet. She was passing through a narrow corridor when she suddenly heard knights coming. She hid in a hole in the wall and used her sharp ears to hear their conversation. She heard them talking about the next stage of their plan, which was to infiltrate Shin Castle in the southern part of the empire. Suddenly, one of the knights sensed an intruder, and this made another knight very excited, and he started shooting magic at every hole. Asta understood that this was very dangerous, so she crawled deeper into the hole trying to escape. Before she could escape, the knight's fireball hit her, and she fell into a pit full of slimes. At first, she thought the slimes were a bit cute, but then she saw Kless's mummy body tied with the slimes and started wondering what happened to him. Some knights started approaching, so she hid and entered a hole in the ground and fell into a very dark corridor. She used night vision goggles to see in the dark. As she advanced, she noticed a crack in the wall, so she fiddled with it a bit and opened a secret room that looked like an old library. She entered to check the books, but couldn't understand anything, so she put them back. She decided she could use this secret room if she needed a place to hide, but as she was leaving the room, the doors behind her closed with a loud sound, and this made some nearby guards come. This could have been a perfect opportunity to test the secret room as a hiding place, but she didn't move at all. Asta had no solution, so she used her stealth skills to move inside the castle. Her skills were so excellent that she managed not to get caught. Then, in a certain corridor, guards started coming from both sides, and Asta didn't know what to do. It turned out that one of the people walking from one end was Mr. Raffid. At the last moment, she jumped out the window and held onto the wall using her claws. She was afraid that Mr. Raffid would sense the air current when the window opened, but luckily he walked past her without noticing. Asta used her claws to climb higher in the castle until she found an open window. She entered and saw Shalom standing directly behind her. She found it strange that even after Shalom saw someone jumping from her window, she wasn't nervous at all and was still very calm. Asta played the game and said she was a lost merchant and arrived here by chance. Shalom didn't show any suspicion about the matter. Apparently, her father usually locks her here for long periods, so she was happy to see someone else. Some guards started coming to bring her a meal, and Asta thought it was over for her. But strangely, Shalom told her to hide under the bed, and Asta hid under the bed. The guards came and went without Shalom reporting Asta. After the guards left, Shalom told Asta that the way was safe and she could come out. Asta didn't understand anything at this moment, unable to know if this girl was setting a trap or just careless. But still, Shalom wasn't a bad person. Asta was wondering why she was locked up in the first place. Shalom invited her to join her for a tea party, and Asta immediately asked for a cup of coffee to communicate with Asta telepathically through signs. She told Asta about this girl named Shalom and that she didn't show any signs sign of betrayal, although she didn't know why Shalom was locked up in the first place. She thought she might get information from her. Elsewhere in the forest, the commander of the search and rescue team, Thunder, met with Helk and the others to deliver a message from Vermilio and pass it to Azadora. After he relayed the message, he flew away. Vermilio started feeling a bit worried because she knew humans had become a major force. At the same time, in Shin Castle, a line of winged knights approached with killing intent, but the Shin Castle forces were already prepared and knew they were coming. Their defenses stopped the knights. The winged knights wondered how they knew of their arrival. Demon King Shin explained to them that they had guards at the entrance all the time for cases like this and blamed them for their stupidity, telling them they couldn't take over the castle. But Zero wasn't surprised at all because this didn't spoil their plans. Suddenly, an army of monsters started approaching the castle from the northeast and west, numbering about 30,000. Zero explained that they used their magic to create a portal capable of generating monsters for them. Shin didn't believe this because he didn't expect humans to have such advanced magical abilities. Zero told Demon King Shin that they had two choices: surrender and hand over Shin Castle, or try against the monster army. The demons weren't ready to surrender easily, so they sent their forces and fought with all their might, and managed to defeat several waves of monsters. The winged knights saw that they might have underestimated the strength of Shin Castle's forces, so they prepared to take what they came for originally, the barrier stone. Suddenly, half of their soldiers were killed by an arrow shot from above. They looked and found Azudora and some of his forces coming as support. Shin felt confident now, but Zero warned him that there was no to celebrate because all this was just a trap to lure Azudora out of Thor Castle and attack the place in his absence. At the same time, Marcus was attacking Thor Castle's defenses, going straight for the barrier stone and easily stopping anyone in his way. He reached the barrier room and was about to take it, but Hyura stood in front of him. Marcus was shocked that Hyura could hit him. Surely she was stronger than the others. The two started fighting, and Hyura managed to hold her own against Marcus, and in the end, she cut off his hand and sword. But they regenerated very quickly. This surprised Hyura, so she needed some time to rethink her strategy, but Marcus didn't leave her any chance. In the end, he cut off her arm. Hyura has the ability to regenerate, but not as fast as Marcus, who has mana and a larger blood reserve. If she tried to regenerate faster than her capacity, she might die from overload, so all she did was try to hold him with one arm. In a room next to her, Edil knew that Hyura was in the other room. Hyura was his sworn enemy because she killed him many times before, so he wanted revenge. He ran to the barrier room and attacked Hyura with his sword, but she managed to protect herself. Edil explained to Marcus that he had a dispute with Hyura, so he wanted to deal with her. Marcus agreed and went to the room with the barrier stone. He was about to take it when many tree roots came out of the ground and killed his assistant. Now he was locked inside a root barrier. But the more worrying thing was that he felt a strong aura from the corner. Lord Azudora came out and told Marcus that he fell into his trap. Marcus felt this was impossible because he was seen before in Shin Castle. But in reality, the scene that happened in Shin Castle with Azudora was just a trick performed by one of the cute dog soldiers. Marcus couldn't believe he was outsmarted because he was supposed to be the smartest here. Azudora said he never expected there would be a human who could reach this high level of magic. At this moment, connecting everything together, he discovers that Marcus was the one who killed Demon Kings Urim and Thor. Marcus doesn't deny. On the contrary, he embraces the truth. The arrogant look on Marcus's face angers Azudora very much, so he starts attacking with tree roots. Marcus manages to avoid some of the roots by teleporting, but Azudora proves he is far superior to him in combat. He counters every attack and causes fatal damage. Marcus is very affected and unable to attack more, so he tells Azudora it's useless to kill him because he will return like the other heroes. But Azudora knows this is a lie. If it were true, Marcus would have killed himself as soon as he discovered it was a trap. Marcus discovers he is exposed, so he tries to buy time by reminding Azudora of his glory days as a cruel leader of the Four. Elite. Marcus explains that many years ago during the Great War, he was a soldier fighting with the human army against Azudora, but Azudora likely wouldn't remember him because he was just a regular soldier. Azudora slaughtered all of Marcus's comrades alone and left the battlefield full of their corpses. Marcus was very afraid at that time, so he hid among the corpses of his comrades and stayed silent so Azudora wouldn't notice him. His plan succeeded, but he was poisoned by the demon world's toxins. Then a great magic activated within him and supplied him with great power. After Azudora heard these words, he assumed Marcus was driven by revenge, but Marcus didn't care about revenge and wanted to create a new world after his awakening. Marcus spent the next 500 years traveling between worlds, learning different magic and gathering very large powers. This conversation with Azudora gave him enough time to regain his strength, and now he goes back to attacking. Azudora intended at first to capture him only, not kill him, but now after what happened, he admits he was naive and swears he will kill him right here. At the same time, Hura and Edel begin their battle, and Hura discovers that winning against him is no longer easy like before. Now Edel has become stronger, and he tells her he won't give up until he defeats her. Hura replies and says she will break his spirit, so he won't get up again. Edel gets a bit excited and changes his tone, telling her that breaking his spirit won't be possible because he looks forward to every battle with her. She is the only one for him. Hura gets confused and asks what that means. Edel suddenly gets shy and retracts his words and suggests continuing the battle. Hura thinks maybe this means Edel is close to being freed from the mind control magic. At the same time, Asta is still having a tea party with Shalom. She asks her persistently about the king's location, and Shalom finally agrees, telling her, but on the condition that she comes with her. She wants to escape and see all her friends again, especially Helk and Kless. When she hears this, she becomes sure that Shalom has a connection to the heroes. From her sad reaction and her hurry to leave, it's clear something bad is happening. So Asta decides to take her along, promising her that they would be able to meet Helk. As they run through the corridors, Asta discovers that Shalom is lighter on her feet than expected. Even stranger, she has a special ability that spreads vast energy particles, and any human touching them gets a special power. Asta's eyes widen in shock, and she feels there might be a reason Shalom was detained. She feels that releasing her might have a huge impact on the war. Suddenly they hear someone coming, so they run until they reach the main display room. The room lights up as they entered, and a glowing knife reached Shalom's hand. She started using it against them, not understanding what was happening, but soon she discovered she was under the control of the entity in the middle of the room, the Fallen King. At this moment, Mr. Rafayed entered and called out the Fallen King for using mind control magic on Shalom, and told him not to do that unless the plan needed it. Shalom fell to the ground, freed from control. Mr. Rafayed praised Asta because she reached this stage without anyone discovering her, and noted her skill, but he warned her that unfortunately this was the end of the road for her. Asta picked up the knife and tried to kill the Fallen King, but he stopped her at the right moment and pinned her with winged knights. He looked Asta in the eyes and announced that no demon could save himself. They had already lost. Asta felt a strong mental connection with Hura. Suddenly she felt uneasy and hoped that Hura might be okay. In the barrier room, Azudora was completely controlling Mikaros with tree roots, but Mikaros wasn't even annoyed a bit. He told Azudora that keeping the winged knights instead of killing them was a big mistake. Mikaros broke the magic tied to them in the tree roots and caused them to transform into big monsters. Azudora admitted it would be stupid if he thought that these monsters would be enough for Azudora, so he broke the spell on all the winged knights outside, meaning now there were more than 20,000 monsters waiting. Azudora knew this was a big problem, so he asked Han and ordered everyone to retreat while he tried to deal with the situation alone. He gathered all his power to resist the monsters, and Mikaros was amazed. At the same time, Hura and Adel's battle was interrupted by the castle's collapse. Adel flew her to safety. Hura discovered that he really cared about her and was freed from the curse, but didn't want to admit it. Mikaros saw Adel protecting Hura, so he teleported and attacked them. Mikaros was happy and surprised that Edel was freed from the mind magic. Mikaros expected this and prepared a backup. He put his hand on Edel's forehead and used the break magic intended to turn Edel into a conscienceless fighter. Hura intervened at the last moment and cut Mikaros in two. Unfortunately, the break magic was still active, meaning Edel would start turning into a monster. Edel warned Hura to get away from him quickly. Then he flew away. Mikaros thought that using break magic on Edel was the best move possible. He knew that Helk would come to him in the end, and facing his old colleague would cause him depression and despair, making his power control him. All the other people were secured, but Azudora stayed alone, trying to deal with everything by himself. But the day turned into a terrible day for him when Adel blew up the door and entered the room. Adel's abilities were strengthened significantly now, and this put him leagues ahead of Azudora in combat. He managed to stab Azudora in his chest and prepared to deal the final blow. At the same time, Helk and Vermilio were still on their journey towards the Empire and set up camp for the night in a forest nearby to rest a bit. Vermilio remembered that Harpy had told her that the bridge ahead of them was broken, meaning they needed to take a longer route. Harpy wanted to help as much as she could, but Helk and Vermilio told her not to tire herself, just being a guide. For them to return to the Empire was enough, and she had to go to sleep. Harpy followed their words and lay down to rest. After she went to sleep, Vermilio remembered the letter Azudora sent her, ordering her to go to the southern part of the Empire instead of the place they were heading to. According to Harpy, the human empire established borders close to the southern empire, so Vermilio suggested to Helk that they move quickly without stopping to replenish supplies. With this plan, they should arrive within 3 days. Helk agreed, although he felt they hadn't walked a long distance and were almost there. Vermilio agreed and admitted she enjoyed every moment of the journey. But now, with the final battle ahead of them, whatever the plan was, Vermilio was almost certain that Azudora saw them as the last resort to kill the king because they probably had enough power to defeat him together. She said that defeating the king wouldn't be the end of the battle. This was just the beginning. The real mission would be eliminating all the humans who would transform as a result of the battle. Helk reassured her that it wasn't a big deal. He would defeat every one of them. Vermilio called him stupid and told him to stop carrying all the guilt on himself because her power is effective even when outnumbered, making her just as capable as him. Helk agreed. The next day, Helk and the others headed towards the base established in the Southern Empire. Before they arrived, they saw Rufu, one of the reconnaissance team, falling to the ground, warning them not to continue because the winged knights launched a surprise attack and destroyed their base. The scene shifted to the burning base where Mr. Rafaed, the leader of the remaining winged knights, expected to see Helk there, but was surprised to find a whole camp of demons instead of him. Vermilio quickly discovered that the attack wasn't directed at the demons, but was directed at Helk. Her prediction was right. Humans were afraid of Helk's power, just like the demons, and were doing everything possible to prevent him from participating in the war. Vermilio started to feel paranoid and froze, not knowing what to do. But Helk advanced calmly and asked her if she was coming. Vermilio snapped out of her shock and asked Harpy and Peewee to stay back and tend to Rufu's wounds. After a while, Vermilio and Helk arrived at an abandoned battlefield where Mr. Rafaed stood before them looking at Helk and noting that he was still in good condition. He expected Helk to be more tired by now. Mr. Rafaed didn't waste time beating around the bush and admitted that the only reason he came here was to defeat him. He was the last obstacle standing in the way of their plan to create a new world. Mr. Rafaed believed that by now, Helk must understand that there was immense power inside him. He admitted that his mission was to grow this power to reach a state of complete rampage and force Helk to withdraw from the war completely. However, he offered Helk a chance to walk away freely and save his life. He advised him to take his friends and hide far from the war until it ended and told him there was no shame in running away. Helk naturally refused to retreat, telling Rafaed that if he intended to continue this tragedy, he had no choice but to fight. Mr. Rafaed called him crazy for deciding this and promised him he would die. He unleashed a wave of winged knights upon them, but Helk and Vermilio cooperated and cut through the wave easily. Mr. Rafaed hadn't expected Helk to have such a strong companion, so he grabbed a sword and entered the battle himself. The attack he launched on Vermilio caused a huge explosion. Helk stopped and looked at her to ensure she was okay. Vermilio emerged from the smoke and told him not to worry, confirming it was impossible for her to die from an attack like this. Mr. Rafaed realized that his plan to send Helk into a rage wouldn't work now because Vermilio was there supporting him psychologically and keeping him sane. He believed that since Helk was attached to Vermilio, the only way to make him go crazy now would be to kill her. But Vermilio was confident that even if she died, Helk would be fine. During the time they spent together, Helk learned self-control and discipline, and there was no chance of him going crazy. Suddenly, Vermilio sensed an evil aura nearby, and as she looked behind, an arrow from a winged knight headed towards her, but she dodged. The arrow was actually aimed at Helk, and she warned him at the right moment, and he managed to catch the arrow safely. This winged knight was different from the rest, and surrounded by an evil aura. Vermilio told Helk that she would deal with the normal knights while he dealt with this special one. She used her fire magic to pin down the others, but suddenly she felt another evil aura. Mr. Rafaed broke through the fire and faced Vermilio directly, warning her that she had reached her limit with Helk and was stupid if she thought he could resist the rampage. Vermilio sensed Helk's aura at maximum power from afar. The special winged knight attacked, but Helk grabbed him easily, his presence radiating power. Vermilio tried to advance, but Rafaed told her that it was useless. What she saw was Helk's sadness and pain. Helk was human, and overcoming despair was very difficult. Now he had to kill one of the people he loved most. Vermilio was confused, until she saw Helk remove the knight's helmet and discovered it was Alicia. Helk held her face, apologizing that he couldn't protect her and promising he would finish all this. Vermilio understood immediately. Helk had to kill someone he loved to prevent himself from going mad. Even she couldn't live with an act like this against someone she cared about. Realizing this, Vermilio ran towards Helk, understanding that he never put himself first and always cared about others. Helk joined the Demon King tournament not to destroy humans, but to hand over the hero killer sword to Azudora. Vermilio blamed herself because she didn't understand this earlier. She ran quickly to stop him, but Mr. Rafaed intercepted her, warning her that she crossed the line. Vermilio used her magic to pin him down a bit, then cut his face with her sword and ran past him. Mr. Rafaed knew the danger of the sword and let her go. Helk was about to stab Alicia when Vermilio created an explosion to distract him. Vermilio got close to him and told him the words she should have said from the beginning. They must try to save humans, not destroy them. She reminded him of the true moments. He lived with Adil and Alicia and assured him that there might still be hope. Vermilio realized that the worry inside her came from seeing Helk as a friend. Eliminating humans might wipe out the demon empire, but it wouldn't make him happy, so she decided to save them instead of destroying them. Mr. Rafaed, however, warned her that the awakening changed the genetic structure of humans, and they couldn't return to how they were before. He also said that Azudora's forces in the castle killed him, and used this to suggest they surrender to avoid further chaos. Vermilio completely refused this talk. Azudora's death was announced more than once, but she always saw him survive, and that was because he had a will of steel. She wouldn't believe he died unless she saw him with her own eyes. Vermilio then suggested to Helk that they return to the castle to meet Azudora, hoping he knew how to break the human's curse. Mr. Rafaed, seeing their determination, stopped fighting and withdrew with his team, warning them that resistance was futile. Vermilio and Helk remained determined to save the humans and end the conflict. On the third day, they gathered with the others and started their journey to the castle to report what happened. According to Vermilio, Azudora was alive, although he was affected by many wounds and wrapped in bandages. Asta informed him of the safe return of Vermilio, and Azudora was touched with great joy. Vermilio handed him a letter explaining her plan to save the humans, and he smiled and found her determination beautiful and worthy of admiration. At the same time, Rocio arrived in carriages to meet Vermilio and Helk. Vermilio asked about the rumors that said Azudora died, but Rocio reassured her that this was untrue. He was just wrapped in bandages as he always is. Vermilio was relieved and celebrated, knowing her intuition was right. After they confirmed this, she proposed that they move towards Shin Castle to support the ongoing war. For the first time in a long time, Helk smiled genuinely and understood that he didn't need to say goodbye to his human friends. Maybe there was still a chance to save them in the end. And with this, our story ends today. So before we end our story, do not forget to like, share, and comment on the video, because this is what encourages us to continue. And if you are new to our channel, subscribe and activate the bell button to receive everything new. And that's it. Goodbye.